You asked, and we delivered. Introducing the Dave Moss Tuning Subscription Channel on YouTube. All of Dave's premium content for one low price. Put one of the best suspension tuners on the planet to work for you. Find the link in the description box below and get started today.
Now, back in the Jurassic period, many years ago, we used to pump up our forks and shock. Don't be disturbed by that, it is true. It's what we actually used to do. We would use air pressure inside the forks and the shock. For example, an old CX500, 50 to 70 PSI. Was it a shock? No, it was an airbag. You didn't know that, did you? So, back in the old days, you'd pump each leg up individually, or you'd have a balance tube that would come between them to equalize the air pressure in both as the forks worked. Move this over into a different category away from the road, and what do dirt bikes, anything off the road with two wheels, do? Bleed the air pressure off every time they go for a ride to put everything back to atmospheric pressure. So, what does that mean? Well, as the air builds up, it pressurizes in the fork in the air gap between the oil and the top of the fork. So if you run a high oil level, you're constantly compressing that air. If you're constantly compressing the air and the oil is hot and the metal is hot, that air is going to expand, which means in effect what you're using is air pressure to keep the bike, the forks in particular, off bottom. And that's what an air spring is. That's what it was used for in the rear shock as well, way back when. Doesn't get used anymore. I mentioned that to somebody with his SV650 who was in his 60s. He went home, drilled and tapped his fork caps because it was the plain unadjustable fork, played with oil height and air pressure. Now's the best ride of his life. He had forgotten what we used to do until he was reintroduced to the concept. So if you're aggressive, you'll run a higher oil level so that air spring effect stops the bottom happening quickly, but also gives you feel and warning that you're getting close to the limit. Similarly, if you run a low oil level, then that air spring effect is minimalized, is probably the best explanation for that. So then you don't get this buildup of air pressure and this travel slowing down to not stop, but just slowing down as that air pressure builds. So using an air spring effect is a very useful tool for anybody that rides a motorcycle. And off-road, they know all about that stuff. If you don't, there's plenty of information on the DM Tuning app.
To schedule a remote tuning appointment for you and your bike with Dave via text, email, Facebook, etc., contact Dave on Facebook or by email, dave@davemosstuning.com.